Let's be honest, life can feel overwhelming. Between work, personal goals, family commitments, and a never-ending to-do list. Sometimes this feels like we're constantly running but never really getting anywhere. I used to believe the answer was to work harder, take on more, and push myself further. But the more I piled on, the more I realized something really crucial. Complexity was my biggest enemy. When I embraced simplicity, both in my work and in my personal life, everything changed. The stress started to fade, my focus sharpened, and I finally began to make real progress towards things that mattered the most. The funny thing is, simplicity always isn't easy. It takes effort to strip away the non-essentials, but the results are really worth it. The lesson became very clear to me when I created Blakebill. This is that platform that helps designers and freelancers solve any file transfer issue. I didn't set out to make something flashy or overcomplicated. I wanted a tool that was straightforward, effective, and easy to use. By focusing on simplicity, I created something that didn't just work, it worked better than anything I had tried before. But before we dive into that, let's actually talk about why simplicity is so powerful and how it can transform your life too. Why we overcomplicate everything. If there's one thing humans are particularly good at, it's making things harder than they actually need to be. Overcomplicating comes naturally to us. We add steps, layer on processes, pile on tools in the hopes that more equals better. But instead of helping, all this complexity tends to backfire. It slows us down, it muddles our focus, and it leaves us feeling overwhelmed. So why do we do it? Why is it hard to keep things simple? The truth is, overcomplication often stems from good intentions. We want to be thorough, efficient, and prepared. We think that adding more features, steps, and considerations will make something work better or look more impressive. But instead of simplifying or streamlining, we create chaos. It's like carrying around a backpack stuffed with things we might need. Eventually, it just becomes way too heavy to bear. For me, this habit of overcomplication showed up most clearly in my work. Back when I was juggling multiple freelance clients, I felt like I had to constantly reinvent the wheel on each project. I created custom workflows for every client, used different tools depending on their preferences, and tried to anticipate every possible issue before it happened. On the surface, it seemed like it was being thorough. In reality, I was creating unnecessary work for myself and overloading my mental bandwidth. One of the sneakiest reasons we overcomplicate things is because it feels productive. There's a certain satisfaction that comes from building something intricate. You think, look at all the effort I'm putting in. This must mean I'm doing a good job. But effort doesn't always equal results. Complexity can trick you into feeling busy while actually holding you back. It's like running on a treadmill. You're putting in the work, but you're not really getting anywhere. Another reason we fall into the trap of overcomplication is fear. Simplicity can feel risky. When something is simple, it's exposed. There's no fluff behind. You might worry about if it's too straightforward. It won't seem impressive or valuable. So we add layers and details to make it look more polished, even when those additions don't actually improve the result. This mindset is especially common in work settings when there's often pressure to prove your worth through visible effort. Perfectionism is another culprit. When you're striving for perfection, it's easy to get caught up in the idea that more is better. More options, more steps, more contingency plans. Surely, these will make the outcomes flawless, right? But perfectionism often leads to paralysis. You spend too much time tweaking and refining that you lose sight of the bigger picture. Instead of completing the task and moving on, you get stuck in a loop of endless revisions and then second guessing. Social influences also play a role. We live in a world that often celebrates complexity. So think about it. When someone describes their job or a process of complex or demanding, it's usually viewed as a badge of honor. Simplicity, on the other hand, can be misunderstood as laziness or a lack of effort. This cultural bias makes it harder to embrace simple solutions, even when they're the most effective. Overcomplication also happens when we lack clarity. If you're not clear on what your goal is or what really matters, it's easy to fall into the trap of doing too much. Without a clear sense of direction, you start adding things just in case, or because it feels like the safe thing to do. But instead of creating value, you end up creating clutter. Looking back, I can see how much overcomplication costs me, not just in terms of the time and energy, but the missed opportunities. For example, I used to waste hours managing the logistics of my freelance projects, sending the files through clunky platforms, chasing invoices, and overthinking every little detail. It wasn't until I created Blakebill that I realized how much simpler things could be. By cutting out the unnecessary steps and focusing on what really mattered, I not only saved my time, but also I freed up my mental space to focus on the work that I actually loved. Overcomplication might feel like a badge of honor or a sign of diligence, but in reality, it's a barrier to process. When you strip away the excess, you create room for clarity, focus, and meaningful action. Simplicity isn't just easier, it's smarter. The challenge is learning to trust that less can be truly more. Blakebill.com a case study in simplicity. When I set out to create Blakebill.com, it wasn't actually launching as a flashy, groundbreaking platform or competing with tech giants. It was all about solving a problem that had been frustrating for me years. It was the hassle of transferring files to clients and getting paid. I was really tired of wasting hours on email chains, chasing down invoices, and wrestling with these clunky file sharing tools. I wanted something simple, a tool that just worked without unnecessary steps or complexity. So that's how Blakebill came to be. And the journey to build it actually taught me more about the power of simplicity than I could have ever imagined. In the beginning, I was tempted to overcomplicate things. Like so many people starting a new project, I thought by adding more features and options would make the platform better. What if clients wanted a different payment method? What if they needed to download the file in multiple formats? What if they wanted to add comments or request revisions through the platform? The what ifs were endless, and they threatened to bury me under a pile of unnecessary features. But then I stepped back and I asked myself a simple question. What's one thing this platform needs to do really well? And the answer was clear. Make it easy to transfer files and be paid immediately. That clarity became the foundation of everything I built. Instead of trying to do everything, I focused on doing one thing exceptionally well. The result was a tool that not only was simple to use, but it's incredibly effective. Here's how Blakebill works. You upload your file, you set your price, and then you send a link to your client. The client pays instantly to access their files. And that's it. There's no complicated setup. There's no endless back and forth emails. There's no chasing down unpaid invoices. The simplicity of the process is what makes it so powerful. By cutting out all the unnecessary steps, I was able to create a platform that saves time and reduces stress for both freelancers and their clients. But simplicity isn't about the ease of use, it's also about eliminating friction. Before Blakebill, my workflow was riddled with tiny frustrations. Sending large files often meant splitting them into multiple emails or uploading them to platforms that weren't designed for professional use. Payments were another headache. Some clients preferred PayPal, others preferred ACH, some preferred Stripe or something or the other. And following up on overdue invoices felt like a full-time job. Those little pain points added up, draining my time and energy. So with Blakebill, all of that friction just disappeared. The platform handles the file transfers and the payments in one seamless step. So I never have to think about it again. And because it was so simple, my clients loved it too. They don't have to deal with complicated file sharing tools or payment processors. They just click the link, they pay, they get their files. The simplicity of Blakebill just isn't convenient, it's a competitive advantage. So building Blakebill actually taught me an important lesson about trust. Simplicity requires trusting that less is more. It's tempting to add bells and whistles to impress people, but often those extras only add confusion. By focusing on the core functionality and stripping away everything else, I created a tool that's not only easy to use, but it's intuitive. My clients don't need a tutorial to figure out, and that's exactly the point of simplicity which creates confidence. What surprised me the most was how simplicity Blakebill rippled into other areas of work. So by eliminating the time and energy I used to spend monitoring file transfers and payments, I had more bandwidth to create a lot more on my side and in the business. Instead of worrying about the logistics, I actually could focus on delivering great work for my clients. The shift wasn't just practical, it was liberating. It reminded me why I started freelancing in the first place. To do work I love, not get bogged down in admin tasks. Simplicity also made room for growth. With the extra time I gained, I was able to take on more projects, pitch higher paying clients, and even experiment with new ideas. Blakebill didn't just solve a problem, it opened up opportunities I wouldn't have had otherwise. And that's the real magic of simplicity. It creates space for creativity, for connection, and the kind of work that truly matters. Looking back, I realized that Blakebill's success isn't just about what it does, it's about what it doesn't do. It doesn't overload users with options that they don't need. It doesn't complicate the process with unnecessary steps. It doesn't demand hours of setup or troubleshooting. By focusing on simplicity, Blakebill delivers exactly what a user wants. Fast, easy way to transfer files and get paid. The experience of building Blakebill reinforced the truth I've come to live by. Simplicity is a superpower. In a world that's constantly pulling us in a million different directions, simplifying isn't just a choice, it's a necessity. Whether you're designing a product, managing a workflow, or just trying to get through your day, simplicity has the power to transform everything. It's not about doing less, it's about doing less of what doesn't matter so you can focus on more of what really does. If there's one takeaway from Blakebill's journey, it's probably this. Don't underestimate the power of simplicity. When you strip away the noise and focus on what truly matters, you'll be amazed at how much easier and more enjoyable life becomes. The transformative power of simplicity. Simplicity has a way of cutting through the chaos, offering clarity, focus, and a dense sense of purpose. It's not about doing less, it's about doing less of what doesn't matter and more of what actually does. In a world filled with distractions and complexity, simplicity is transformative because it allows us to focus on what truly moves the needle in our work and our lives. For years, years, I equated complexity with productivity. I thought that piling on tasks, adding steps, and using more tools would help me accomplish more. But instead, complexity left me feeling scattered and overwhelmed. My energy was drained by unnecessary decisions, and I was constantly busy without making real progress. When I finally embraced simplicity, everything started to change. The first shift was clarity. Complexity creates confusion, making it hard to see what's really important. Simplicity removes distractions, allowing you to focus on the essentials. By eliminating the noise, I was able to direct my time and energy towards my most important goals, and the results were immediate. Another benefit of simplicity is the reduction of stress. Complexity brings a sense of urgency, too many tasks, too many decisions, and too little time. Simplifying eliminates this pressure. When you focus on what truly matters, you gain a sense of control and calm. Life feels less chaotic, and you're free to approach your priorities with confidence. Simplicity also, again, it sparks creativity. When your mind isn't weighed down by the endless decisions and distractions, you have space and time to think more clearly. Fresh ideas emerge and challenges feel less daunting. Simplifying isn't just about being efficient, it's about creating room for innovation and inspiration. The most profound fact of simplicity is the space it creates for the things that actually matter. When you're no longer bogged down by unnecessary obligations, and you have time for people, projects, and moments that bring you joy. Simplicity isn't about cutting back, it's about building a life that aligns with your values and priorities. The beauty of simplicity is accessibility. You don't need a massive overhaul to feel its impact. Small changes can make a big difference. Start by identifying one area of your life that feels overwhelming, and then ask yourself, what can I let go of? With each step, you'll find that simplicity doesn't just make life easier, it makes it better. It's a path to clarity, focus, and fulfillment.